I studied a lot about how the brain works and all those kind of things. So in the brain, if you think about what's going on with you right now, in the brain there are these things called neurotransmitters that get released. Dopamine, norepinephrine, all these chemicals that get released, and they get released when things happen to you, and they get released from different areas of the brain at different speeds, at different times, depending on what's going on with you. And so, when I say enjoy the moment, here's what I try to do when it's a special moment. Let me, before I go into, let me just kind of take you to a moment that might explain what that looks like with those things being released. You got any golfers in here? Anybody a golfer? Okay, I want to take you golfers real quick. If you're not a golfer, you're still going to understand. You golfers, have you ever got up early to go play golf on a summer morning? It's the perfect morning. And when you get there, there's dew on the grass, but the grass has just been cut. You can smell the smell. And there's that special gleam of light coming off the grass because of the way the sun is just coming up, and your eyes, you sense that special feeling. You see that special gleam with that dew on the grass, and you get that smell, and then you hear the birds, those birds that only chirp like that in the morning, and you get almost a tingly feeling, and do you ever get chills? Those are neurotransmitters being released. And the reason I think that's important, because would you agree, for the rest of your life, no matter what you do, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. Is that true? And in those down times, what I've been able to do, for me anyway, what I've always been able to do is draw on those neurotransmitters of times when I've had to, for me, have a moment in truth. Because we all have these moments in truth, and which means that we come to this crossroad, and we either got to go left or we got to go right. And sometimes our mindset is not the best, and we take the wrong road, and it's not a good one. But if I can get my neurotransmitters to release those good feelings again, I make better decisions. And what's more powerful is, as you're out building this and you're on the road, and Jay Peso, you're doing a presentation on the back of a car, and Tab Loveless, you're doing a presentation on the side of a barn with spotlights on there, and while you're talking, there's bugs all over because the lights are so bright, and it's the summertime, and you eat a bug.
Ew.
But there's those times, man, that you're going to be doing, you're going to be like, what am I doing? And you're driving home at 2 in the morning, and you were supposed to see 10 people, and one showed up. But if you could come to this moment right here that we've experienced together this weekend, and I want you to just take in the room. Because see, the rooms that made a difference for me the last 15 years, I can describe them to you. I can describe that room 10, 12 years ago that had columns in it. That was about the length of this room, about the size of this room. I can tell you what it looked like. I can tell you what the stage looked like. I can tell you who I was sitting by. I can tell you who I talked to right as they released the big announcement. I can tell you what kind of chandeliers they had. I can tell you what it smelled like in the room. And when I go, look at this, I just got chills. Because the neurotransmitters just released. They just released because I just told you that. Look at that. They just released. See, but if you're not taking in the moment, then you never have those neurotransmitters, the good ones, to release at the right time. And I'm telling you that because we're going to have good and bad times. And so, there have been things that have happened to us that we didn't like. There's been things along the way that, for everybody in this room, that we didn't like, that we have situations that they weren't the best. But see, I love it when trainers get up here. And when other people say these things, they say, listen, you got to have faith on the mustard seed. You can move mountains. You know, they all believe that when things are going good, but what happens when things not going so good? They leave? What happened to the faith? See, it's all part of the plan. It's part of the plan. I want what your belief is, but let me say this. For Jesus to reach the cross, Judas was part of the plan.
Oh.
It's part of the plan. Do you have the faith? I mean, you said, hey, give it to, Lord, I want the biggest blessing you can give me. Release it on me. And he gave you the plan and you left. He gave you the plan. That moment of truth. We're going to have 4, 5, 10 moments of truth in our lifetime. And for most of them, we're going to miss, for most of us, we're going to miss those moments of truth because we didn't let the right things happen, because we didn't have the right mindset. I say it all the time. I got to protect me. I can't be around that kind of thinking. I can't be around. I'm not better than anybody, but if God's going to let me lead the masses, I got to think differently than everybody. I got to have it. You got to have it. But you got to start by letting it come in. You ask for it, let it come in your life. Look at the lights. Look at the chandeliers. Look at the lights. Look at the person next to you. Smell what they got on. Smell the Seacret lotion they have on right now. Smell the body butter. Smell it all. Remember who you're sitting by. Remember what the room looked like. Remember all of it. And let the neurotransmitters come when somebody tells you this is a scam. When somebody tells you there's a better opportunity. When somebody tells you come to the bleeding light. When somebody tells you something that you know's not right, but they're pretty convincing. Come back to that moment. See, I didn't know exactly what I was going to talk about when I came up here. I put a lot of energy in that first talk because there was so much packed into it. And I just knew that before I came up here, God would put something in my heart. I just knew He did. And I'm sitting back there. That's why I didn't come up here, because I'm still thinking, God, deliver. I'll say it. I'll say it. And I just go back to those moments in time, that moments of truth that you're going to come across. And in my life, I can think of 3, 4, 5 of them that made a huge difference. And I'm going to explain one. I don't want to bore you with my story, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. Mark, when he introduces me, usually says something about sports. When Jeff introduces me somebody usually says something about sports. When my buddy Nuke introduces me, he says something about sports. You want to know why? I was pretty darn good. And it came easy after all the hard work. And so all my life, things coming. I was voted I'm in the Sports Hall of Fame, in my state, in my high school, in my college, and all of it. It all came after hard work. And so I was voted the guy most likely to go play pro ball. I was voted the most likely to go be successful. I was voted all this stuff. And it was on the path. I was doing it, man. I got the tryout. I got all that stuff. And it didn't work out. And I don't talk about it because it hurts. It hurts that those plans didn't work out. But it was a moment in truth. It was a moment in truth. And I got out and I got a job in the real world, and I hated it. I had a business degree. I hated it. I got a job, and I was one of those guys that thought, I'm the guy that everybody followed because I was a leader. Then I get out and get a job, and I'm a loser, man. I'm a loser. I can't keep a job because I hate them. My wife, she could keep the same job no matter how tough it was. She would keep the same job, and I would go from job to job to job to job. And pretty soon, no matter how much qualification you have, if you leave jobs long enough, they ain't gonna hire you no more. And I'm at this point in my life, in this moment of truth. I'm out of college. I had to try out. I had all that stuff, and I got hurt and all that thing. And now I'm sitting here, and I'm the loser, and I'm like beating myself up. I've never told this story. Never. I'm going from job to job and job, and nobody will hire me anymore because I've left them all. And Kathy's working her ass off, and we don't have 2 nickels to rub together. We can't buy gas. We can't buy food. We can't do anything. And I'm the guy that everybody said, you're the one that's going to make it. You're the one that did it all. And I'm the biggest loser I know. And it came to a point, and I'm not saying I'm above this. I'm not saying I'm better than this. I'm saying I wasn't expecting to do this. The only job I could get was go to a temporary agency and take any job they give me. I ended up getting this job. I was the lowest man on the assembly line. I was working the assembly line. Lowest guy on the totem pole. I'm not above that. Just wasn't expecting it. I'm the lowest guy, man. And I'm sitting there with 2 degrees, and the guy that's plastered on the walls of my schools saying, this is the guy. I'm plastered on the walls, man. And I'm working on the assembly line, lowest guy, 2 degrees. I promise you, nobody on that assembly line had the degrees I had. And I'm sitting there, man, and I'm just like, you've lost it. I remember this one particular day, man. Remember, I don't have a dime. I barely have enough money to get myself to that job in this broken down little car I had at that time. Thank God for that car. And I remember going one day, and I'm like, I went to the kitchen, and we don't have no food. I have no food. And I go to work and work the assembly line, and at lunch they say, okay, everybody go to lunch, and there's a break room for lunch, and I was so embarrassed because I didn't even have food. I didn't go in the lunchroom. I went out and sat in my broken down car. I sat there and I said, God, do something. I'll do whatever. Do something. And I'm sitting there, and it was that moment in truth that I'm talking about that I had to make a decision. And I said, God, do it. And I'll listen to whatever you say. And I mean it. I'll do it. And I've never heard God just say words to me, but he spoke to me. And I'm like, really? And I had no intentions of doing this. I hadn't even thought about it. And here's what God said to me in that moment, in that broken down car. I've never shared this with anybody. He said, get in the medical field. What? What? But I'm sitting in that car and he said, get in the medical field. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm sitting on an assembly line in a broken down car. What are you talking about? And he just kept saying, get in the medical field. And I swear to you, this next part happens. Like, okay, whatever you say. I don't know what it means. Okay. Well, about that same time in our life, Kathy and I started going to this church. And we got this group called Young Marrieds that we were just hanging out with people about our age. And I'm an introvert, so I'm like in the class, but I'm not really talking to anybody. But they said one day, hey, there's a gym in the church and we're all going to play basketball. Oh, now you're speaking my language. Okay, I'll go. So I go and I play this first day and I meet some people and I'm going to tell you, I dominated that court, let me just tell you. I dominated the court. Yeah, you know how you keep the court and win? I kept the court. Okay? Roscoe, that's my court. So as I'm done at the end of one of the sessions, this guy that I could tell everybody knew and everybody respected, and he goes, hey, you want to go have lunch with me? Like, yeah. His name was Scott. I said, yeah, let's go have lunch. And we go to lunch, and we sit down, and he's talking to me, and all he can talk about is sports. He goes, yeah, it seems like you've played a lot. Yeah, I played a little. He goes, man, I've not played much, but man, I want to be around it. I want to learn it. Can we play a lot together? I'm like, you can play whatever you want. He goes, I can play anytime you want. He goes, I got a court at my house. My dad's got a full court. Whatever you want to do, let's play. Come to the church. I can get the keys to the church because the people that started church are my grandparents. No kidding? I said, well, what do you do? And he goes, I just finished residency. I just started my practice.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, you're kidding me. He goes, no. And Kathy will tell you, I spent every hour with that guy that I could. I didn't know what it meant, but I know God said, get the medical field. And I just was put in front of a guy who just finished residency in his family. His dad was a doctor. His uncle was a doctor. Everybody in their family were doctors.
Oh, Lord.
And I started talking to him about, how did you do it? How did you do this? How did you do that? He goes, let me tell you something. I said, dude, is your way the best way? Did you do it? If you had it to do over, would you do? He goes, let me tell you what I would do. If I was going to do it over, he said, I'm a general practice doctor. What I would do is get anesthesia. He said it. Kathy? I'm like, okay. But it gets even better. So now I'm like, okay, God, you're showing me a little bit here, but I don't know what that means yet. I don't know how I get there. I don't know how it works. And so I go home. I'm from New Mexico originally. That's where I grew up. I go home over Christmas, and my mom and dad live in this little town called Chupancarry, New Mexico, little place. And my dad's playing a lot of golf at the time. So when I get there, he goes, hey, let's go play golf. So I go, okay. And I realized I know everybody in town because when I played sports, I knew everybody. Everybody. I didn't know everything they did or but I knew everybody. And so I'm sitting there playing golf with my dad, and behind us was a guy he was playing right behind us, and I was watching him, and I knew because you could see his name when you walked in the little pro shop. His name was on every trophy. He was the best golfer in town. The reason he's the best golfer in town, he was out there a lot. And I also knew he had a big house and he drove a Jaguar. And so I'm watching this guy play golf, and I'm enamored because he's there. And the last time I went and played golf, he was there. And I said to my dad, what does Bob do? And my dad said, oh, that's the guy in town that puts everybody to sleep in the hospital.
Oh.
I'm like, you kidding? Yeah, listen, guys. So my dad goes, let's go in, and then we'll leave. And I said, Dad, you go on. I'm not going to leave. I'm going to sit here in the clubhouse and wait for Bob to come in. He goes, well, you don't have a ride. I said, I'll walk if I have to. I'm waiting for Bob. My dad said, okay, whatever. And so he left, and I waited for Bob. And when I came in, Bob goes, hey, Troy, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I said, Bob, I know it's going to sound crazy. Can I talk to you about what you do? He said, yeah. I said, how'd you do it? And he started telling me. You know what he told me? He said, along the way, people are going to tell you you can't do it like this. And they're going to tell you you can't do it this fast. And they're going to tell you it's not possible. I'm telling you, Troy, it's possible. You listen to me, Troy. You follow me. Don't listen to everything else, because I'm telling you, they don't want you to go that fast. You listen to me, and I'm telling you it's possible. I said, Bob, tell me what you did. Well, Bob went to school in a city called Nashville. Guess where I went to anesthesia school? Nashville. Bob got out and he said, listen, If you really want to do the business, anesthesia is great, but if you really want to make money, there's certain things you want to know. You want to know about pyramids, you want to know about insurance, nobody teaches you that business. When they offer you a place to go, don't get enamored with the shiny object. Don't go to the places that look so cool. You come to my little town and I'll teach you how to run the business. So guess where I went when they offered that? The little town. I learned everything about business, and when I got done with school, I made 4 times more than any one person that was in my class. My first year out. See, I tell you that because years earlier when I was sitting in that car, the only thing I had was faith. Faith is the size of the mustard seed. But it was that moment of truth that I had to decide, did I really believe that, or I'm just saying it to sound good to other people. If I believe, I believe. Bless me, I'll do it. But you gotta be ready. You gotta know you're there. And you gotta act on it right away, man. It's gotta happen. And here we are in this moment of truth right now. We're in that moment. But you guys delivered, brother. You delivered. But now it's up to us to decide. Are we going to continue to listen to the outside? Or have you been praying for something to happen in your business and it just happened and now you got to react? Are you ready to react? You've held on, you've done what you needed to do. But now it's your time. They did their part. We got to do our part. See, as I was thinking about that, my buddy Jeff, there's a lot of things we've done together. A lot. A lot. And there's a lot of things I can tell you that Jeff has influenced me by, good and mostly bad. But I never thought I would be saying the words that I'm getting ready to say to you right now about Jeff. Jeff called me up last week and he said, there's a book you gotta read. Really, dude? Really, you? Really? Of all people, you? Like, come on, man. He goes, you gotta read this book. I said, you read it? He goes, yeah, dude, you gotta read it. So I got the book immediately. Jeff said to get it, I got it. And I read the book and it's incredible. And I'm dyslexic, I don't read books. I listen to books, and Jeff said these words to me. I said, Jeff, I'll get it on audio. And he said, don't. He said, it's a quick read. I go, you know I'm dyslexic. He goes, it doesn't matter. It's a quick read. Read it. And I read it. And man, everybody should read this book. Everybody should read this book. I've been telling everybody I talk to now, read this book. If you talk to me, read this book. You know the name of the book? Make Your Bed. Make Your Bed. By William McCraven. Make Your Bed. Let me tell you about this Make Your Bed. There's a lot of good stuff in this book. It's short, but man, is it powerful. And there's about 10 chapters in it, that's it. But in chapter 9, write that down. In chapter 9, there is a part of the story that just blew me away. And here's what it is. If you don't know, William McCraven was a Navy SEAL, and he's telling about his exploits in the military and his time as a Navy SEAL and how he came up through the training and points of it, the moments of truth the moments of truth in his life because he became a Navy SEAL. He's telling about those moments. He doesn't say the word moment of truth, but he keeps telling the moments of truth. And at chapter 9, he tells about this moment of truth, and here's how it goes. He's with his other students. He's a student in the Navy SEAL program. My buddy Newkirk, his son, has been in the Navy SEAL program. We've been hearing this firsthand, Nuke, through your son. And I've been listening to Nuke tell me stories, and then this book comes, Make Your Bed, and he tells this story, and it just blows me away. He said the Navy SEAL training complex is in the San Diego, California area. And they're going through training, and there's this one part in training, and the things they got to do are incredible. The things they got to do are incredible. Most people don't even come close to making it. And there's this one point, it's called Hell Week. Now this is the week that the biggest percentage of students drop out. Hell Week. And here's what they do. They take a rubber raft and they paddle down from there where they're at their training facility. They paddle down the coast all the way to this place called the Tijuana Mud Flats. Now the Tijuana, when they get there, the Tijuana Mud Flats, and if you've ever been to San Diego at certain times, it's cold. The water's cold and it's cold. You think of Southern California like warm. No, you're at the wrong time, it is cold. And so they're paddling down and it's cold. And they're going down and they get to the Tijuana Mud Flats. And it's the evening, it's still sunny, and they get there and these flats, to lay it out for you, it's the low part of the area, and all the waste and all the junk that comes off of San Diego and Tijuana float to the mud flats. They paddle down, and now what they got to do is hours upon hours they're there for a week. Hours upon hours every day that they're in the mud and the gunk of the Tijuana Mud Flats. And the mud is that sticky mud, and they seep down to their waist, and they got mud all over them. And the smell is horrendous. And their sole purpose, the instructor's sole purpose, is to get them to quit. They want to eliminate the weak. In this business, sometimes we eliminate the weak. That's their sole purpose. And he said they're there this day, and they're working out hour after hour, and now the sun's starting to go down, and they're so cold. The mud is so cold. They can't feel their feet. They can't feel their hands, and they're exhausted. They can't even pick up their legs because the mud's so thick and so sticky, and they're just doing exercise after exercise after exercise. The sun goes down. Now they're freezing to death. They're miserable. And there's a group of them. And the instructor, they said the instructor started a bonfire away from them. This big bonfire. And the instructor sat around and started cooking. Had coffee and chicken noodle soup and they could smell it. And they're there, and he said, I could see my other student, the people I'm there with, my friends, I could see them starting to weaken. I could see them starting to move over closer to that fire, to get closer. And I knew they were gonna move, man. They were gonna move, and the instructor got on a bullhorn and he said, listen, if 5 of you will quit, all of you can have the soup. I just need 5 of you. And the weak started to move. The weak started to move. And then he said, man, what are we going to do? They moved. I can't lose my friends. I got to save them. I got to do something. I got to lead. Somebody's got to lead. And he said, out of nowhere, this weak voice, this crackling voice, because we were all exhausted, somebody started singing a song that they all knew, that they all sung together when they were working hard. And the guy just started singing it. And when he started singing it, those people that were moving stopped. And he kept singing by himself, and they just stood there. And they were just inching, kind of inching. And then somebody else joined in on the song, and they stopped. And they just stood there. And the instructor said, "Quit singing! Everybody stop!" And more people started singing louder. They just started singing louder and louder. "Quit it! Quit singing! I command you, quit singing!" And they just kept going and going. And those people came back. And when they came back, they locked arms. And they stood there. And they just sung through the night. The song. And that moment carried them through the rest of the training. Because the receptors, they called on that moment when they needed it. They were locked. They smelled the gunk. They smelled them. They felt them. They knew what the mud felt like. And every time they wanted to leave, they thought about that moment where they were locked together. The music that they were singing together brought them together. And we all have that moment of truth. We all have a moment of truth. It's up to us. It's up to us. We ready. We ready. We ready for God. We ready. We ready. We ready for God. Come on, we ready. We ready. They ain't breaking us. We ready. They can't shake us. Come on. I'm not going to try the object. They can't shake it. Seacret, this is us, man. We're in this together. We're going to make records. We're going to set the industry on fire. God bless you. This is your moment of truth.